this is the power of a type of test like that, of what can happen to an individual in your life, and you don't even know why you're being tested. But let me give you a testimony. When okay, before I knew the Lord, okay, and some of you might already know the testimonies; it might be repetitive, but before I knew the Lord, um, I was a severe alcoholic. I was a mess.
Mm.
Like had no knowledge of God, nothing like that. But I started dating this guy, and he would like not tell me scriptures that were like how people do it. They're like really religious with it, like Matthew 24:25 says. It wasn't like that. He would when he spoke, it was just that the scriptures were just like language out of his mouth, but I didn't know that it was the word of God at the time. Okay, but for some reason, I was being drawn to him. And
Mm.
obviously, we know that Hebrews 4:12 says that the word of God is sharper than any two-edged sword, that it penetrates the heart. So
Mhm.
just by him speaking the word, something was happening, was drawing me to him. So we start dating, and you understand, I'm drinking. He was drinking with me too. Okay. Well, 2 months into our us dating, he ends up taking off to North Carolina, and we're on the phone, long distance. And he calls me one night, and he's crying, crying. And I don't understand why he's crying, but before he even said a word, okay, all of a sudden I'm sitting in my closet, and I feel something happening to me. My breath is starting to be taken away, and I'm kind of going like like. And I said, "Listen, I gotta go. I gotta get off this phone." He's like, "No, no, 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 no. I have to talk to you." I said, "No, I gotta get off this phone." I said, "Something is happening to me," and I felt almost like compelled to pray. And at the time, I was not praying. I was not praying. I was not in my Bible. It wasn't anything like that. So I get off the phone. I think I
Mm.
hung up on him. I get off the phone, and I say something. I don't even know what's coming out. I don't even know what I said. Anyways, I call him back and tell him what is happening to me. And he goes like this. He said, "Oh my gosh." He said, "You're being saved." I said, "Saved? What's saved mean?" I have no clue what saved is. I'm like,
Yeah.
saved? And
Yeah.
he's like, "You're being saved." And I'm like, saved? And so from that moment on, something changed. I didn't know that, my life at the time, when you're in darkness, you can't see that it's darkness
Mm.
because the light isn't shining on it. And so
Mhm.
when that happened to me, I started to see like, oh, maybe like, because I didn't know it was God that I was
Mhm.
encountering. I didn't know.
Yeah.
Long story short, this guy starts telling me, "You need to get out of there and come to North Carolina with me, and I'll talk to you about all this. I'll talk to you about what's happening." I'm like, we've only been dating for 2 months. I'm like, what? Like I can't do that, right? But understand, my life at the time, I was a complete drunk. Okay, I had access to a lot of money, so it was even more dangerous. And I was trying to start a bar business, and like I had girls. It was crazy stuff, guys. Crazy,
Mm.
crazy, crazy worldly stuff.
Yep.
And so I wasn't. From what I thought I was like doing stuff in the world, it was you know how that is when you're in the world. You're like, oh, no, I have this one. You don't have nothing going on compared to God. you know? And so, anyways, he starts telling me, "You got to get out of there. You got to get out of there." I'm like, "No." And anyways, I start trying. He starts kind of convincing me because you know, uh, I'm starting to have this like, oh man, maybe what I'm doing is wrong. Like, but I don't know anything about God, right? And so one night, I'm being torn between these two worlds. Like, Satan wasn't trying to let me go that easy. And he's trying to tell me to get out of there, and he's talking to me about God and all this. It was really overwhelming to me. And so I end up, he's trying to tell me to stop drinking, all this stuff. I end up going back to drink for like 2 solid days, and I just totally stopped calling him. I'm like, I'm done. This is too much for me. I'm going back. And I'm sitting in the bar one night, and I felt it inside of me. It was like a voice telling me, if you don't go, you're going to die. And I knew that I had to go. And so I call him up and I'm like, I'm going with you. He's like, you are? And I end up going with him. So here's the story behind it. That night, he called me crying because that's like Abraham and Isaac. He said, put him on the altar. God knew he wasn't going to have Abraham kill his son. He was just, understand, he was saying, he was testing his heart because he said, I want to know if you love me more than anything I give you. I want to know if you're going to put me first. And so, God gave me to him as a wife, and we went immediately straight into ministry. 15-hour days, God just moved upon a ministry after I got pulled out. So I got, taught. He's, he's very, by the word of God. I had the word of God around me like 15 hours a day. I was like, it was heavy duty. But the point of that, all I'm saying is that God, that act of obedience, not only did it do something for him, okay, but it saved a soul. You see, I was not saved. I was in the world, and because of that little obedience, a lot of times we think God asks us to do something, and it doesn't even seem like he's like, why are you asking me to do that? And we don't even understand that it's because he's looking at the other people around you, and it's not just about us. He knew that by telling my husband to give me up like that, and my husband did it with the knowing that he was potentially going to lose that relationship. But he was saying to himself, I love you more, God. Like, I'm willing to let her go for you. So, faith. It takes faith to do that. It took faith, because think about what could happen. The enemy comes in and tells you, no, God surely won't want you to leave that relationship. And you're like, yeah, maybe that wouldn't be God. But right there, that simple faith is that saying, don't touch that. And you say, okay. And then God says, okay, now you can have it. Isn't that powerful? We won't understand everything, but we'll learn to start trusting God, and we'll learn to start, as soon as he tells us, don't do something, we'll learn that it's not because he doesn't want us to have something. It's because we can trust him that no matter what, even if he doesn't give it to us, it's because he has our best interest in mind. He's our daddy. He's Abba Father. He is the greatest father you'll ever have. You see? So you can walk in that, okay? Let me tell you what Jesus said. He said, daily you must deny yourself. Daily. People think they're like, giving yourself away to God is an event. They think that. They think it's an event. It's not an event. It's a lifestyle. See, it's what you do all the time. You do it every moment. It's every thought. It's every moment. It's every choice. You're giving yourself away to him.